Because, like I said, forgiveness is not necessarily reconciliation. Forgiveness does not take away the reality of what was done. Forgiveness does not downplay the pain that was felt. Forgiveness is just choosing to heal.
Welcome to Holy Heartline session. My name is Tosin, and I'll be your host for the day. And today we are going to be speaking about the freedom of forgiveness. So it's some sort of a soul detox today. Welcome, everyone. If you're online on Facebook or YouTube, you are welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you on here. And I will just speak to you briefly about Holy Heart and what we do. This is a very important community for women. And Holy Heart is a sacred space for women who are ready to live healed, whole, and purpose-driven lives. Here we guide women into deep self-awareness, spiritual alignment, and authentic growth through coaching, storytelling, community, and divine truth. If you're navigating brokenness or rediscovering your voice or stepping into your calling, Holy Heart exists to remind you that you are not just enough and that you are complete. The mission here is to empower women to embrace their full identity, heal from within, and live wholly, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and purposefully. So today, like I said, we will be speaking about the freedom of forgiveness. That's the title of the session today. And we have a very special guest. But before I bring her up, I want to let you all know that you're here. Feel free in this space. Go ahead and listen intently. It'll be great if you just have your heart open and be ready to learn, hear, and also share with us as well. We look forward to hearing from you. You can type your comments, you can send us questions. We're happy to take them. So I would speak briefly about our speaker and introduce her to us. Mrs. Ediri Ose Ediale is our guest for the day, our special guest for the day. She's a psychotherapist and clinical counselor who specializes in emotional wellness, trauma recovery, and mental health support. Our guest is Mrs. Ediri Ose Ediale. She's a psychotherapist and clinical counselor who specializes in emotional wellness, trauma recovery, and mental health support. She brings a compassionate approach and practical therapeutic insight that helps individuals navigate pain, rebuild inner strength, and embrace true emotional freedom. Without much ado, please put your hands together or type in the comment section to welcome our guest for the day. You're very welcome, Mrs. Idiri.
Thank you so much. Please confirm that you can see me and you can hear me.
I can see you. I can see you.
Can you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you as well. Yeah, I can hear you. Line is breaking a little, but I can see you and hear you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. I think we will jump right into it to begin to speak with you about what we think or what you think about forgiveness. And I think that's where we should start from because sometimes I think the meaning is misinterpreted. Um, Maybe people don't understand the full extent of what forgiveness is. And, people say, oh, I've forgiven, but they've not really forgiven. And, there's just, it's a bit of a dance there. So what does forgiveness really, really mean? And is there freedom when it comes to forgiveness? Maybe we should start there.
Absolutely. So, forgiveness is, I'm going to take it from the perspective of psychotherapy and psychology, as well as from a faith perspective. So, as human beings, I always start conversations like this when it has to do with anything to do with how you feel and your emotion. Forgiveness is a path to a particular type of wellness. Now, as human beings, we do not live and function and exist alone. So life is like a continuum of relationships. And honestly, there are different structures to these relationships from when you were a child, relationships with your parents, relationships with your siblings, relationships with your colleagues as you get older or your neighbors. There is always a kind of structure of relationships that we function as. And because human beings are not the same in terms of how we think and what we believe, we will get. So understand that there are opportunities for offense and opportunities for forgiveness quite often. So forgiveness is this. There is a hurt that has been done to someone, perceived hurt has been done, and forgiveness is a decision to say, despite the fact that there's an actual hurt, not to take away from the hurt, not to take away from the pain, not to take away from the fact that it affected the person, is to say, I choose to let go and begin to see that person, maybe not in the same way they used to be, but I still choose to see that person. There's something we call unconditional positive regard positively, and I choose to step away from the pain that hurt has caused me, and I choose to live my life beyond looking back to say I was hurt. As the conversations continue, I will explain more what that is. But in like the basic terms is there was hurt by someone you were in a relationship with, whether it's a father, parent, child relationship, sibling relationship, whatever structure of relationship, there was hurt. And deciding that I'm going to move past this. I'm going to move past this and step away from this pain. I'm going to move past this and live life beyond what was done to me so that I can live life optimally. So that's what forgiveness is. If you notice, I didn't say forgiveness is reconciliation. So I'm going to continue that later. To say forgiveness is your decision to say, as the individual's decision to say, I've been hurt, but I'm going to live my life beyond what was done, because I do not want to keep going back and feeling that pain and feeling that, hurt. Now, you said, is there freedom in forgiveness? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want me to talk about that, this is what I'll take it from psychology and psychotherapy. So, first of all, when there is hurt, we call it trauma. So if there's any negative feeling or some negative incident that has been done to someone, as psychologists or psychotherapists, we call it trauma. Now, the reality is that trauma affects your life in different ways. So trauma is pain. So trauma could be grief, loss of a loved one. It could be sickness. It could be failed relationships, and it could be hurts where there needs to be forgiveness. Now, this kind of pains I have outlined, or this kind of trauma I've outlined, including someone has hurt you, is that it affects the way you function in life. It kind of rewires your brain. So you become it's PTSD. PTSD is that you're looking at something negative that has happened to you, and then you are living your life trying to cope with that PTSD. To say, maybe I had an accident, so I'm always careful when I'm getting into cars. I'm always careful the kind of roads I take. Unforgiveness is similar. To say, this person hurt me, it has rewired the way you see human beings in general. So you become a little bit more secretive and guarded, and you maybe become a little bit more negative in dealing with those people. And that is because healing has not taken place. So the way you are processing life, the way you're living life is from a perspective. And that is not the reality or the best. So forgiveness comes in when you say that is there freedom. Forgiveness is actually healing from it. So absolutely 100% there is freedom when you decide to go through that process.
Very insightful beginning. It has
Yes.
honestly opened up a world of questions. But the question I have is still around hurt, right? And there are there are and there are and can be cycles of hurt. Now, someone would say, I forgave someone. I did something, I forgave them. They did something, I forgave them. They did something again, I forgave them. And it may not be the same person that hurt them, but they've carried hurt and they've had to experience cycles and cycles of hurt. So how do we manage that? How does someone manage that? Because they seem to have learned forgiveness the first time. And then the second time, their heart is bruised again, and bruised and bruised and bruised. And now, like you said, it has built a system of some sort of trauma that they don't, and has shaped their eye view, shaped their brain to think differently. So how will someone like that forgive? Because cycles of hurt, how would that play out?
So, cycles of hurt, first of all, is I would ask that what kind of protection have they put around themselves in terms of life's interaction? So what I would say is when there's a hurt, there should be an appropriate and realistic process of healing. That's first. And then you need to learn, or the person needs to learn, how do I protect myself going forward? So what we can do is that what did we learn from what happened? Because like I said, forgiveness is not necessarily reconciliation. Forgiveness does not take away the reality of what was done. Forgiveness does not downplay the pain that was felt. Forgiveness is just choosing to heal. Now, how do you protect yourself? If you have learned a lesson that I was hurt, this was done to me, have you set boundaries for yourself? Like I said, forgiveness is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is not saying that the person will not do it again. Forgiveness is just you choosing to heal. So now, in your choosing to heal, you are supposed to still set healthy boundaries for yourself. These are things I will not take. So for instance, let me even talk. Let's give examples. From the get-go, you have a friend, and you tell your friend, I don't play to the point of you using derogatory words on me. I don't joke to that level. I will not let you get to the point to say, I want to even start forgiving you because I've learned my lesson. So what are the boundaries you've set for yourself? We talk about red flags in relationships all the time. Do you see these red flags and do you immediately polite? These are the things I will not take. So set boundaries for yourself, because I'm trying to help that this cycle does not go on and on and on. If it goes on and on and on, there's a level of emotional dysregulation there where the person is not speaking up for themselves. So set boundaries for yourself. Empathy. One of the components of emotional intelligence is empathy. And what empathy means is that I'm giving this person grace, that they are not perfect. And so what you do with that is that your expectations of those people are not too high. I'm giving them, I'm saying empathy that I know they are human, they can make mistakes, they are not God, they are not perfect. So my expectations of them are realistic. So that means when they do certain things, I don't even count it as hurt because my expectations of them are on a particular level. So one is that you're setting boundaries for yourself. Two is that you are giving realistic expectations, empathy to say these people are human beings. I'm not perfect, they're not perfect. So that it's not everything that hurts that person. It's not everything that is now a need for forgiveness. And the third I will say is speak up for yourself. When you identify something that is hurtful or painful, before if it gets to a point where it totally is a hurtful or debilitating to you, speak up. Speak up politely, speak up firmly, speak up kindly. So set boundaries for yourself, empathize with people, let your expectations of people be realistic. Because if you feel, oh, I can't believe this person could do this to me or do that to me, then you are going to be hurt more than those that say, I like you, I love you, you're my friend, you're my this, but I also understand that you are human. So my expectations are on this level, so that you do not also make everything something so big and so hurtful. So what I will say is, do not allow yourself to be in a cycle of consistent hurt. If anybody's in that cycle, then the person needs to look within. And let me tell you why. Whatever anybody does to you is not the deciding factor of how you feel. You need to, because what we say in psychology is between an action and your response, there's something called cognition, the way you process it. So if somebody does something to you, before you decide how to respond, you've processed it to say, why did this happen? Was this person deliberately nasty? Or was this person just being, maybe they didn't understand, or they're just being, nonchalant? When you process that information, your response will be determined by how you process it. It's not determined by what they did. It's actually determined by how you processed it. So you process it in a way that it doesn't become a big hurt, it's better for you. But if you process it in a way that, oh, this thing is still unkind, then what are you going to do about it? So what I will say is, one, you need to be able to guard yourself so that there is not constant hurts. You shouldn't be someone that people are hurting all the time. That is something that needs to be checked. So set boundaries for yourself, have realistic expectations of people, and speak up. And speak up for yourself. Also check the motivations of those people, why they're doing what they do. It might not be that the person is wicked, or is the younger brother of Satan or younger sister of Satan. They may just be ignorant of what they're doing, so that if you have those kind of conversations, then you can put things into perspective and then protect yourself so that you're not always hurt. Because, while we talk about forgiveness, we should also talk about how we see what people do to us, so that it's not as if we are in a constant cycle of being.
It's like a mini lecture, mini lecture in one question, because you gave us steps. You talked about setting boundaries. You talked about empathy. You talked about speaking up for yourself, and you talked about setting realistic expectations of people. And those are very salient points that one can employ if they are on this journey or road to forgiveness, or as they are also protecting themselves from hurt,
Yes.
or the cycle of it.
Yes.
So, question is, can forgiveness take time? And if it does take time, how long? Is there a time span for forgiveness to happen?
Sorry, I didn't catch the...
So I said, can forgiveness take time? Because people carry hurt for a long time. Some carry for a short time. Does it take time? Is there a specific time that forgiveness needs to happen? Because I've heard of situations where people think they have forgiven, and then in another few years, they see something that reminds them that looks like I haven't let this go after all. So question is, how does this work? Does it take time? And if it does, how long?
Absolutely. So, I was discussing something about forgiveness, and when people talk about the fact that Jesus said forgive, I always say that Jesus said forgive, but he didn't say that forgiveness will come immediately. And like I said before, forgiveness is not necessarily reconciliation. So if someone has been hurt, Maybe the person has been betrayed. Maybe the person has been physically hurt or emotionally hurt. It will take time. Forgiveness is a process, it's not instant. And you know, when I hear people say, oh, I've forgiven them, I always look at them twice and say, really? So there are some exercises that you will know if you have forgiven somebody. So let me, maybe throw out some examples there. If you had the opportunity to be of a blessing to that person, would you do it? So this is to check if you have forgiven. Would you do it? So just think about someone that you believe has hurt you. If they say, oh, I need to do something good for that person, and they put you as the person that has the opportunity to do that good thing, would you do it? That's a question to know if you have forgiven. So forgiveness is not just a statement, it's a process. It's a process. So what does forgiveness what does it look like? First of all, as I said, it's not instant. And I like to use this analogy of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ on the cross said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Let me tell you what that means in today's language. Someone that hurts you is not doing it from a place of love, wholeness, and sometimes they're not even doing it from a place of. So that means where empathy comes in is to understand that this person, not to exempt them from the repercussions of what they did, but to say that sometimes they do not understand the gravity of what they're doing or how it's affecting you. Now, Jesus on the cross said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I said something that even though you have forgiven, there might be no need for reconciliation. Because when Jesus Christ rose from the dead, do you notice that even though he had forgiven all the people that nailed him on the cross, he didn't visit any one of them? He didn't go and meet them and say, let me you, because I have forgiven you. He didn't go there. He met with those people that were his close allies, his disciples. So forgiveness, one, is not necessarily reconciliation unless the person has shown that there is some sort of repentance from their parts. Now, forgiveness is a process. What does the process look like? Acknowledge the fact that I have been hurt. Acknowledge the fact that I have been hurt and this is painful. Release the pain. You can talk. You can cry. You can have a conversation with the person that caused the pain. Because some people need to have that conversation. That you're having the conversation, the person may not be remorseful, it's fine. You just need to air your pain. So acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge the pain, and then talk about it. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to confront the person, confront the person. Express your anger. Express your anger, but refuse to stay there. You're expressing it because you want to walk away from it. Express it, acknowledge it, express it, and then begin the healing process. So how do you begin the whole healing process? Begin to speak that I have decided to let this thing go. I'm not doing it because of what the person, whether I believe the person is worthy of my forgiveness or not. I'm doing it because I realize that if I hold on to this, it is toxic to me. So I'm going to release it. You can even use the hurt as a purpose in life. You can use it because you're trying to turn the story of that pain into something that is meaningful and purposeful to people. So you can, first of all, I said, talk about it, feel the hurt, cry, confront the person, and then pray, seek help, forgive and forgive. Because usually when you are hurt, there's a part of you that says, why did I let that happen? So part of the forgiveness is to you. You need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive yourself. You need to speak about it. You need to release the hurt. Don't just say, okay, in my mind, I forgive. No. Ask yourself, so if this person is in front of me and this person is in danger and I have the solution, would I help this person? That's how you know if you're ready to forgive. And then, like I said, plan towards protecting yourself in future. When you have a concrete plan, of how you can protect yourself in future. You have an assignment and a meaning, so that you're not just a sitting duck. You're not just saying, "Oh, this is what is happening." So can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
When you're on forgiveness, or
Yeah.
when you don't forgive, so when you say, I'm fine, life is okay, I just choose not to forgive this person. It's like you have like something that is rotting in your house, something going bad is in one corner of your house. And so every day you wake up and you clean your house and you don't touch that thing that is rotting, because my house is fine, I'm good. I'm not just going to touch that thing that is rotting. But your house begins to stink. So the reality is your wholeness is dependent on the health of your emotions in totality. Now, if this thing that hurts you, you're thinking, I'm fine, but I'm not going to forgive this person, you are just deceiving yourself, because you are now responding to life based on the fact that I don't trust that person, I don't forgive that person. It doesn't just stay with that. It begins to affect the way you relate with other people. The bad thing about unforgiveness, the bad thing about this negative emotions with unforgiveness, is that it impacts other relationships, it impacts other decisions, it impacts your level of calmness as opposed to anxiety, your level of not being depressed. It impacts everything. It is not just about that person. If you let that pain stay, like that stink that is in the house, it impacts everything. So you need to understand that choosing to forgive is more about you and your mental well-being than it is about the person. It's hard. It's hard. Can I give you a quick story? Can I give you a quick story before your next question? I had a client, and this client is a man. I mean, this is quite, age. And he found out that he started having ideation. This person that has children at like university, and he started having suicidal ideation, and he came to me. So we had a conversation. What was the problem? After a lot of exploration, I found out that his father was an extremely wicked man that used to always abuse his mother. To the point that when he tried to save the mother, the father came and said, I will catch this woman and I will kill her if you don't let her come back to my house. So this impacted him. He had not let go of the hurts of what happened to his mom and how he felt about his dad. And this was maybe like 20 years before he did this. And 20 years later, he was having panic attacks, anxiety attack, suicidal ideation that we traced back to the feelings that he had for his dad. How would you connect the fact that my father was abusive to me having anxiety almost 20 years later? What is the connection? The connection is when you do not heal from trauma, it will affect other aspects of your life. You are now living with an emotional unwell state, and you think, oh, it's just my dad, I'm fine, other things are fine. No. It will now begin to impact how you see life. It will now begin to impact how your relationships work. It will begin to impact other aspects, because it doesn't just stay there as, oh, this person did something to me, I forgive, but I'm fine here. No, that's not how trauma works. It begins to impact every aspect of your life. So healing and forgiving is a process. But the process starts when you understand that it's not about that person. It's not as if I'm giving the person a free pass. Is that I need to be good for
Saying that forgiveness is a bit selfish. It's about like you making sure you're fine, even if the other person has dumped on you. So it's about making sure you're fine. Some people could say that. That's one question. Second question would be, you talked about forgiving yourself, and you kind of have already described the process of forgiving
Yeah,
others. Does this same process apply when you're forgiving yourself? Because I know that forgiving oneself could be harder in some
yes,
cases because the
yeah,
blame game, like a whole Lagos babe, you let them manipulate you, or you'd be like, you're learned and you fell for that. How
yes.
can you
How
let
could I?
someone
How could
scam
I?
you? How could I have fallen for this? Was I stupid? Was I not
Yeah.
in my right senses? Stuff like that comes up. So how do people, forgive themselves, especially for some situations that people walk into that they didn't even know? It's not like they walked into it deliberately. There are some things people do that's, it's my fault. I know. But there are some things that are done to you by others that you had no knowledge of, like rape,
Yeah.
like
You couldn't even do
stealing
anything
from
about it.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
absolutely.
people stealing from you, like
Yeah.
kidnap, stuff like that. How do people forgive? How can you forgive yourself for something you didn't necessarily do to yourself? And then how can you forgive yourself for the ones that you did to yourself? Kind of.
Okay.
I guess it's a
I
mix. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think forgiving yourself on both levels are kind of similar. Because even when you were first of all, the one that you couldn't help yourself, it's very clear that you couldn't help yourself. There was nothing you could do. But that simple statement doesn't really always take away the trauma. That simple statement, it was that, there was nothing you could do about it. It doesn't really take away the hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you can do is, and I think what people have learned to do in terms of things like that is this is how I help some of my clients. And that's where purpose comes in, to say, what are you doing today? What are you doing today to make sure that the Idiri of today, the Tosin of today, will never be in that situation again?
Again,
What can
fantastic.
you do so that whenever, and you can do that even when it was you that you worked as an adult and you put yourself in a position to be hurt. What you can say is, okay, happen. What can I do to make sure it happen to me? What can I do to make sure it doesn't happen to people around me? What are the steps I can take to ensure that this type of thing doesn't happen again? Do I speak about it? Do I pray about it? Who can I talk to about it so that I am protecting myself? Let me tell you why that is so important. When the pain comes, and you remember what happened in the past, you have the current actions to like cover it. Okay, but I'm doing this today. I'm doing this today. I'm doing this today because it can be very loud. Feelings can be very loud, so there's another thing you can do. Talk is therapy. So let me tell you why talk is therapy. Talk is therapy because I always say this thing, that if you have a negative emotional feeling that is overwhelming you, the moment you talk about it, you can reduce up to 60-70%. Let me tell you what. The conversations in your head are not always correct. So when you say, hey, big girl like me, how could I have fallen for this thing? I will tell you that people that are even bigger than you have fallen. I will tell you that the way that thing played out, they would have done. So I will be there to help you put things in perspective. And even if you don't have someone that can talk to you, you yourself can put things in perspective. And if you say, "Oh, I was such a fool," you say, "No, I wasn't a fool. I was kind-hearted. I look I for people. I did it out of the kindness of my heart." So you need to talk back to yourself when those conversations come and say, "You're stupid, you're foolish." You say, "No, I'm not stupid. I'm human. I'm kind. I'm caring. And I expected people to be like me, so I kind of failed." So give yourself grace. So you need to talk back to yourself. When those conversations come that is making you feel stupid and less than, you talk to yourself and put things in perspective. That's one. The second one is, like I said, you need to find out today what you can do to ensure that the Tosin of yesterday, the Ejiri of yesterday, is proud of the Ejiri. So whenever I think about the hurt of yesterday, and that's if that's happened, but the injury of today is doing this, so that it's making today's life better. So yeah. So always talk back to yourself and find out, what can I do today to protect myself? Write it down, set your boundaries respectfully, and then your expectations of people, how high is it, and how unreasonable, so that you do not always say, oh, this person hurts me, this person hurts me, you know. This time if someone tells me that they are coming to pick me up at 4 p.m., can I give them grace? Be late? Is it and the conversations in social media now is like, any little thing that is done is a red flag, is a write-off.
Yes.
Now, if you don't have a realistic expectation, or they'll say things like, this gender, that gender, or this, or that. If you're not careful about things like that, you will always be hurt. You will always be in a place where you feel that you've been hurt. But the reality is that humans will be humans. Can we give
To the
Yes.
arsenal that you have given us tonight? Honestly, I'm tempted to not highlight yet because I feel there's more, and I want to ask a question around. People say forgive and forget. It always seems to be a cliche thing, especially
Yeah.
people of faith. They
Yeah.
typically say, "Oh, forgive and
Yeah.
forget, forgive and forget." How easy is it to forget? Because I know that if I want to go scriptural, there's a sea of forgetfulness, right? And Jesus
Yeah.
doesn't remember our sins and all of that good stuff, which is fantastic. But as humans, do we also function in that grace of forgetting? Because again, and does you not forgetting mean that you have not forgiven? Because in some cases, it's not that you haven't forgiven, but you still didn't forget. It may not bring hurt in that moment, but like, that year, this person did this. Help us decipher the difference, and can we function in that same grace here where we forget totally?
So first of all, we are not good.
Thank you very much.
Good. Even though we are gods.
Yeah.
Even though we are gods, we are not good. But every day
Yeah.
we strive to a closer relationship with God. We're not God. So I mean, forgetting. So I have a little bit of an issue with saying forgetting, because forgetting for a lot of people is an unhealthy coping mechanism. To say, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. It's not a very healthy, because one day the thing will pop up and you will go crazy. I would rather you acknowledge, deal with it, speak about it. I never say that this thing hurts, was hurtful, it was painful, but I have forgiven. It doesn't mean you will not remember from time to time. But how does it play out when you remember? So there's something I wanted to write. I wrote about, I talked about the insatiable, people, and why is it that people feel that I have to do something back? Why do people feel that, this person did something to me? And I want to say that because I'm careful that when the thought of this person comes to your mind, let it not be, oh, I will still deal with this person or something like that. So there's a thought in, if I let this thing go, I'm a fool. There's this conversation about no grief for anybody. We have these conversations, no grief for anybody. So people say, I'm not a fool, so I'm not going to let it go. So that is one. So maybe thinking that they are wicked, they must pay. Who says I'm a fool? And holding a,
ask her one more question while we wait for any other questions we have online. So what does a healed person look like? Like someone, and is it a permanent position? Because you know that people always offend you, right? And you have to take different processes to forgive the different offenses, quote and unquote. It also matters if you take offense or don't take offense. But what does a healed whole person looks like? What's that portrait of a healed person who forgives looks like? Yeah. Touched on a lot more things. It's really amazing. Thank you. That was very deep and insightful. I want to
Thank
take
you
like a few
so much.
questions from people online, and one question does stand out. Person says, "Can forgiveness happen without an apology?" Be interesting to know. If you don't
Sorry,
get
I
an
lost you.
apology.
I lost you there.
Okay, okay.
I lost you. I
The
didn't hear what you
question,
said.
okay. The question is, can forgiveness happen without an apology? Yeah.
So
Hey,
some people have been
hey,
hurt
hey,
by,
hey.
yeah. Some people some people are even hurt. You see, there's something has happened to them.
Yeah,
Are you
they
waiting
carry a
for the leaders
grudge
of
against
Nigeria
the
to come and tell
country.
you sorry?
Yeah.
Are you waiting for them to come and apologize? Or are you going
Ah,
to you need to let it go?
thank you, man. That's very spot on. Another question. Someone says, can there be trust after forgiveness, just like before the hurt was done? So, in other words, someone had hurt you before, you forgave them. Should the person who is hurt be watchful not to trust again? I think it's the same question. But yeah, that's why I
Okay.
read it that way.
You because you want to forgive. The persons through their you need to protect the expectation. It will take time.
You
It will
so
take time.
much, Mom. Thank you. You kind of answered the last two questions, because one
Okay.
person asks, where do you draw the line between forgiving and protecting your peace? And other person says, how do you forgive someone without allowing them back into your life? I feel like you have answered it, but if you have more to say around it, you can still speak to
So
it. Hey,
forgive. I gave this. Stay away from them.
I love this. This this
Are
has been really
you so
insightful.
protect your
Thank
peace?
you.
Forgive away.
Kind of short of words because it's been very, very insightful, and it
Thank
has
you.
gone a very good direction where, people are used to a certain level of messaging around forgiveness, and that cowers, that is not bold, that is not practical, and this has done a whole shift on the practicality of what forgiveness really is. I want us all to appreciate our guest first. Please, you can clock it in the comments. You can clap, you can leave a heart, because you will not get it everywhere, please. And this is the truth. And it is also scriptural at the same time. It is practical, it is scriptural. And I'll just do a quick recap of what we have heard tonight from our special guest speaker. Um, she did tell us about she did tell us about forgiveness. Is hurt done to you? She gave us some practical steps around forgiveness, which is acknowledge it, talk about it, feel the hurt, express your anger, but don't stay there. Understand that forgiveness is the process. Pray, seek help. So seek professional help. A lot of times, she's a seasoned therapist, and this is what she does. And imagine how you can be helped through some of the things that you're dealing with. Because sometimes you don't even know exactly what you're dealing with, why you're acting how you're acting, why you're carrying on hurt forever. You don't even know that it's just one thing you need to tweak. Just the practical steps are very, 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 they're very useful. It's something you can start now. And then I liked how she talked about boundaries. Plan to protect yourself. Like, don't repeat a cycle. Don't let people continue to hurt you. Don't be a mugu. Excuse my French. Don't let people keep hurting you. Don't create a cycle of hurt by yourself if you can move away from it. And um, and she talked about unforgiveness being rot. and you can't live with rot forever, obviously, and that would be a problem. And she also talked about setting realistic expectations of people. Don't overestimate yourself in people's lives. Don't underestimate people and what they can do. If they show you a consistency of behavior, believe it. Don't try to see the quote and unquote good. They've shown you a pattern, believe in that pattern. And then they have to prove themselves to you over time. And she also talked about forgetting. We are not God, so you necessarily cannot forget. And not forgetting doesn't also mean you haven't forgiven. Um, she said, talk is therapy. You have to talk about it. And get therapy, give yourself grace. And even in forgiving yourself, you can take similar practical steps towards forgiving yourself. Don't speak hurtful words to yourself, speak positive words to yourself. You can't continue the same habits that you had when you were hurt for you to live a healed lifestyle. So you have to separate yourself from those habits if you want to be healed and whole. And then you have to check the quality of your thoughts, which is a very salient point she made. And you now have to understand that forgiveness is not about you. It's about you. It's not about the other person. It's about, I really like that, taking yourself from an emotionally negative place to an emotionally well place for you to be productive. And it's about you, it's not about what the person has done. So you have to understand that forgiveness is also not reconciliation, and reconciliation is dependent on them. See, I can go on, but I don't want to requote her because she's here. I'm saying this deliberately for those who didn't like join us early, so that you can, understand some of the conversations that led us to this point where we are. I want to say a huge thank you, Mara, for speaking to us, for pouring on us, for helping us understand the freedom that does come with forgiveness. Thank you. Thank you and thank you.
Thank
God
you
bless
so
you.
much for having me.
God bless you,
Thank you.
Mara.
Thank you as well.
Um, Thank you. We appreciate you. I'm going to call on Sister Oge to take over now. She has a short session for us. Thank you, Mrs. Ediri. Really appreciate you.